Hello and welcome to my first sketchbook tour. I finished this sketchbook a couple months ago, but I thought it'd be nice to have a look through it. This is a Sakura sketchbook, A4 size and 140 gram paper. This was my first time using the sketchbook, and though I enjoyed it, I probably won't be using it again. The paper was a little bit too warm tinted for me, though it did hold up a lot of different media very well. The sketchbook took me about 10 months to finish. When I first started, I was more heavily focused on digital art, but since January I've been trying to shift my focus more towards traditional art again, and I've been trying to force myself to work a bit more in my sketchbook. I really like looking through Sketchbook because there's a lot of art that we usually don't find good enough to share, but I think it gives a realistic view of what making art is actually like. Not everything we draw is going to be amazing, but that's also how we grow and learn as artists. There's a lot of spreads that I don't particularly love, but I don't think of a sketchbook as the individual pieces inside, but rather a collective of art pieces from that moment in time. For many of the spreads, I can remember what I was thinking or how I was feeling when I drew them, and I think there's something really special about that. Because I'd been working digitally for so long, the sketchbook became a bit of an exploration of how to translate my style to traditional art. I'm not sure if I have it fully figured out yet, months down the line, but there are a couple spreads that I really like how they turned out, and that I sort of use as a reference moving forward to remind myself of what kind of art I like. A lot of the spreads you'll see in this sketchbook were done in Sophie McPike's Scribble Brigade sessions. 3 times a month she hosts a live drawing session here on YouTube, and those sessions have often been really helpful to get me to pick up a pencil again if I haven't been making any art for a while. I'll leave a link down below to her channel if you want to check out her work or join any of her future drawing sessions. I really recommend them. This is one of my favorite spreads in this sketchbook. I used acrylic wash background and Faber-Castell polychromos on top, and I even made it into a print for my store. I really love the colors and the textures. This sketch actually became a finished piece that I made with Holbein acrylic wash on handmade recycled paper. I also like to use my sketchbook for planning for bigger pieces or for note-taking, anything that might need a spare piece of paper, but instead I just do it all in my sketchbook. A few years back I used to make each sketchbook have a theme. For example, I had an architecture sketchbook, a model drawing sketchbook, a travel watercolor journal sketchbook. But then I soon realized that I never got around to finishing any of those sketchbooks because all of the themes were too niche. So since my last 2 sketchbooks or so, I decided that just all traditional art that I wanted to be doing that are not finished pieces, I would just put in one general sketchbook. And that's helped a lot because now I've actually finished sketchbooks instead of just keeping them lying around in my closet until I feel like drawing in that certain theme again. This piece on the right is actually a lino print that I recently released in my store. And I also used the same print to print on the cover of Moleskine notebooks, which I think turned out really cute. As you can see, I also use my sketchbook to do a lot of studies. Figure drawing is something that I really need to improve on. I feel like my bodies always feel very stiff and like doll-like and not alive. There's been a few spreads that I've had to skip so far, mainly because I'm not sure how strict YouTube is with their not safe for work policies, and I tried not to take too many risks. But I tried to keep in as much spreads as I could because I wanted to give a realistic look at my sketchbook and not show the spreads that I didn't like because I didn't like them. Throughout the sketchbook I have a couple self-portraits. As you may have seen in my other video, I'm doing a self-portrait challenge where I draw myself every month, and this was my portrait for January. I also like to take trips to museums to do style studies of the pieces I see there, and these are some of the sketches I made of Giacometti sculptures. I used a charcoal pencil to try and emulate a rough style. I usually use Pinterest for reference pictures, but recently I've been feeling like I'm seeing all the same images, and a lot of the images are professional photography of models, which sometimes I don't find that interesting to draw. So I've been trying out this app called Museum by Sketchy, where all people are uploading their own selfies for artists to be able to draw, and you can also see other artists and who they draw and the picture that they referenced. It's been nice to have a different set of photos to look through and also a more diverse range of people to draw from. In February, I joined the art challenge Funguary hosted by Fifal over on Instagram, and this was my planning spread, and these are some of the pieces that I ended up with. I really enjoyed working on this series and think I ended up with about 8 pieces. I used Holbein acrylic wash, Faber-Castell polychromos, and some watercolor to create the pieces. Around the start of this year, I also decided to make a new website for my portfolio, and I've been using ReadyMag, which has been nice. So I did a lot of the planning for how I wanted my website to look in the sketchbook as well. This is a sketchbook spread I did of my 2 first foster cats. They were very cute. They've now been adopted. In my latest video, I made pet portraits of all my foster cats, if you haven't seen that yet. At this part of my sketchbook, I tried to do a drawing a day, and that did not last long. As you can see, I think I made it to like 5 days, and I didn't like any of the drawings that I made, so I gave up quite quickly. This is the point in my sketchbook where I started exploring children's illustration styles, and I'm working on a bigger project for my portfolio. Once it's ready, I'll make a full video explaining about it. But all the drawings of bears and little girls is part of that bigger project. I don't really have a clear style throughout this sketchbook, I would say, especially with my exploration of children's illustration, which is something that I never really did before. But I think that's also kind of what sketchbooks are for, to try out new things and to develop your art. I have no idea what my art is going to look like coming up, but I'm very excited. This year is also my first time exploring air dry clay and sculpting, so these are some of the initial ideas I had of what I wanted to make with clay. Later turns out that it's not as easy as expected, and many of these ideas I don't think I'll be able to achieve anytime soon, but at least there's a goal for me to work towards. I hope you enjoyed having a peek inside my sketchbook. I'm currently almost halfway through my next sketchbook already, so I'll probably be doing another sketchbook tour hopefully soon, let's see. Thank you for watching and for being here, and I hope you have a great day.